On today's show,
we discuss some juicy Andrew Bogut trade rumors and LeBron's latest career milestone.
Up down on Tim Duncan's new ink, in-game coach interviews, and Cuban standing by his comments that Westbrook is not a superstar.
And Beverly is pumped for a brand new edition of Weekend Whoopsies.
It's Monday, December 12th. The starter starts now.
Good evening, sweet world, and welcome to The Starters. Whether you're listening to the podcast, joining us live right now on NBA TV, or a little bit later on YouTube, we're happy to have you. I'm J.E. Skeets, and alongside me, as always, that's Tass Mellis.
We're still on the air.
To his right, the international man of mystery, taking it to the max, Lee Ellis.
Friend.
Lily, and last, certainly not least, over there, it's the bearded one. It's Trey Kirby.
Hey, yo!
Oh, hey, Beardman, what do you got for us?
I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at hashtag the starters. And guys, there was a fun article on Newsday over the weekend about 3 New York Knicks, Mindaugas Kuzminskis, Willie Hernangomez, and Kristaps Porzingis, and their relationships with their basketball playing mothers. There's a lot of great factoids in there. But my favorite part was this quote from Kristaps, where he simply said, "It's true. My first word was ball." My mom says my first word was also ball. We know Hedo Turkoglu's first word was definitely ball. But it brings us to today's question. What were other NBA players' first words? For instance, Dwight Howard's was probably candy. Most likely, J.R. Smith's was shoot. And we know for sure that Lee Ellis's was very solid.
2 words, he's so smart.
Yeah, this kid was a genius. All downhill from there, but we want to hear from you. So let us know on Twitter, what were NBA players' first words? Send us your best tweets to hashtag the starters. We'll hear from you later.
How was that number 2, Lee? Very solid.
Not as a baby.
Not. Yeah.
Very messy.
He's talented.
All right, we got a fun show tonight. We got the Up-Down Report, and we got a new batch, of course, of Weekend Whoopsies. But we start with a little Is This News? Trey's rounded up some recent NBA headlines, going to pitch them to us, and we'll talk it out whether or not they're actually news, because remember, not all news is actually news. Trey, first headline.
Our first headline comes from NBC Sports, and it's a rumor. Celtics, Blazers, potential trade destinations for Mavericks center Andrew Bogut. Is this news?
Oh, baby, this is definitely news for all 3 parties potentially involved.
Okay.
For the Celtics, it would shore up their defense. They're struggling. Defensive rebounding, they're towards the bottom. Second chance points for opponents, they're towards the bottom. For the Blazers, he'd set some mean picks for that guard-centric offense and also shore up their defense. And for the Mavs as well, if they trade away Andrew Bogut, that's saying to Dirk Nowitzki, who's turning 39 after this season, that, this is it. I mean, basically, we're going younger and we're giving it up. So I think it's a big deal for all 3 involved if they were to trade.
He's an impact player. We saw that in the finals last year when he went down. Even though I know Draymond Green got suspended, the Warriors really missed him on the defensive end, rebounding, turning away shots, just setting screens for Steph and Clay. So that's exactly what these type of teams you mentioned, Portland, could definitely use for CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, setting screens and just helping out defensively. And also for Andrew Bogut, because he's in the final year of his contract right now. He wants to showcase teams that he can still be an important player in the league.
Yeah, he's still a young guy.
Yeah, he's not going to do that on the Mavericks, who are very, very unlikely to make the playoffs this season. So he wants to sort of showcase his talents coming into a free agency season. Say, look, I can still be an important player and still has a big role to play on someone's team.
You could see why it makes sense for both of those teams, Blazers and Celtics. They could use a piece like him. What would it take, though, I'm curious from you guys, to get a guy like Andrew Bogut? Is it as simple as like a first-round pick? Somewhere 15
I think
and
it's
higher?
more.
Or you think it's more?
Yeah, if you
for a guy that's injured right now and has had injury concerns over the last couple of years? More?
Yeah, well, I mean, the last 3 years, I think it's a bit overblown. The last 3 years, he's averaged 68 games. That's 14 games missed. It's not that bad. It's a little bit overblown. And rental prices for guys, this could potentially just be a rental for 6 months.
Sure.
It's gone up. The price has gone up. Look at like Aaron Aflalo.
Yep.
The Blazers
Young
got
pieces,
him.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot given up. I don't know. I mean,
a pick, you would have to imagine a pick would be involved.
I haven't traded
think-
machine
And
yet.
maybe a young talent. Then,
I think Mark Cuban's saying at minimum he wants at least a first-round pick from someone coming back. That obviously then starts a rebuild process for the Mavericks.
Yeah.
But again, Andrew Bogut, because of the impact we know he can, you don't look at the box score to see his impact on the game. Teams don't, he's not the sort of guy who's going to have a big double-double, lots of blocks and things like that. His impact is felt elsewhere. But teams just know what he sets defensively. He brings that huge presence there. And again, Boston brought in Al Horford. He's been injured, he's missed a few games, but he hasn't been the rebounding presence they wanted him for. If he can slide over maybe to the 4, frees up his game, Plonk Bogut in the middle, it really changes things for the Celtics.
Well, you look with the Hawks, what Al Horford wasn't able to do defensively on the rebounding. He couldn't. I mean, that's not his forte. It's not what he
Right.
does. They brought in Thiago Splitter. They tried other things. Al Horford is a 4 who's masqueraded in a 5-man's body. He's playing alongside Amir Johnson, who's just not a defensive rim protector. Andrew Bogut would be exactly what they need, and could propel them to that defense that we thought coming into the season. We're penciling them in second, third place. Could they rival at least the Toronto Raptors? They haven't been that.
I'm with you guys. I think it's news. I don't think this trade's going to happen in the next week or so, but I really could see, especially with the Mavs struggling 5-17, worse than the league right now. In the new year, why not? The idea, especially with his contract situation, as you said there, Lee, shipping this guy out. So we agree. It's news. Trey, next headline.
Sounds good. Next headline comes from NBA.com, and it reads, LeBron James first to join 27,000 point, 7,000 rebound, and 7,000 assist club. Is this news?
I'm torn on this one. I'll tell you why. It's not news because, let's be honest, the casual NBA fan, and even the diehards, for that matter, they don't really care about career totals in the NBA. This isn't like baseball where you hit 3,000 hits or you hit 3,000 strikeouts and that's a huge milestone. You don't hear a lot of people going, whoa, this person has 20,000 this or 5,000 this or 7,000.
That's all they have to talk about in baseball. Right?
Yeah, maybe that's the problem. On the other hand, these are monster numbers from one of the best players to ever play the game. And what's interesting to me with the 27,000 points and the 7,000 boards and the 7,000 assists, could LeBron become the first player in NBA history to hit this sort of what I'll call career super triple-double?
Oh, wow.
And what I mean by that is over 10,000 in the three categories, points, rebounds, and an assist. No one's done that in NBA history. And you see here the only 3 guys, now that LeBron's on this list, to do it over 7,000 in each of those categories: LeBron, Big O, and Jason Kidd. He's still got a while. It looks closer than it sort of is because you're only racking up, 500 or so of those rebounds and assists. But if LeBron played 5 or 6 more years at that level, it's in play. I don't think he'll actually get to it, but I'm torn on this one, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's more important just to highlight his consistency and his versatility and his durability over all his career right now. His passing is overlooked. People just take it for granted. He's LeBron, he can pass. I believe he's as good a passer as Magic and Larry. He's got that same court vision, that same IQ, gets his teammates involved. And then at the other end, he's doing a lot of the rebounding as well. We just take it for granted that this guy's out there putting up these numbers every single night, and he's been doing it now to his 14th season.
And he loves doing it too. That's what he is. And that's why it's surprising to see how many points he scored and how because we look at him as a Magic type, we look at him as a guy who sets up the offense. It just shows his all-around talents, and that's why it's more impressive to me. This recent milestone that he got, jumping over Alvin Hayes for 9th in scoring, this one is more impressive to me because no one's going to remember the 7,000 or whatever that stat we just mentioned is. People are going to remember where he is on the all-time scoring list, and I think he'll get up to number 3 and pass guys who we know for scoring simply like Kobe, and MJ.
Yeah.
I think he's going to pass them by the time it's all said and done. A guy who we consider a playmaker.
Yeah, he definitely could. I mean, it does now. You get up there and it starts to get a little bit heavier to score all those points. And as his career goes on, he probably isn't going to score as many. But it's in play again just because of his the way he takes care of himself.
I mean, John Schuman's going to correct me because he loves correcting everybody. our NBA.com friend, writer, mathematician. But I think just looking at simple math, he should be able to pass Kobe for number 3, which is incredible.
Keep your eye on Twitter. Schumann will be tweeting.
Well, actually,
I think we got time for one more headline.
Final headline comes from the New York Post. Phil Jackson advising Lakers coach in possible sign of Bolt. Is this news?
Nope. Not at all. Lakers were playing the Knicks on a Sunday. Need a column. I'll write this. Not at all.
Luke Walton's a former player. He's in his first year as a coach. I don't think there's anything wrong with them talking. Luke saying, hey, listen, I'm new to this game. What do you think about this? I don't think Phil wants to leave New York right now. I think he wants to see it out there myself. I think he wants to have some form of success. Because if he bolts and they're not much better than when he left, then it's like, well, what was the point of that? I think this is a great challenge for Phil.
Well,
I think he wants
$15 million per year.
Yeah,
might
I mean,
be
who
the point
cares?
of that
He's
when
got enough money. He doesn't need
Yeah.
the money. It's more about trying to prove people that he could actually succeed in the role that he's in.
Luke Walton isn't hiring him with the Los Angeles Lakers. It's more news when he talks to Jeannie Buss all the time, or Lakers ownership. This isn't news because it doesn't deem that he's going anywhere.
No.
Players talk all the time. Opposing players talk every day.
You don't think this is a possible sign of Bolt?
not possible sign of Bolt.
Usain Bolt? Is he involved somehow? No, I don't think so. Look, the real story is the Knicks are third place in the East.
Yeah.
And I know the East is a mess, but they're 14-10. They've started off this 5-game trip with 2 wins, which they
coming
haven't done
together.
in a long time. They're playing really well. That should be the story. I just think this is a classic case of the 2 teams that were playing there on Sunday,
Yeah.
the Lakers and the Knicks. And this is sort of an easy one to just pull out of the bag, and there's your column.
Yeah, easy.
That's what I think. Let's hear from the people out there. Was it news or not? Let us know on Twitter, #the starters. And Schumann, come on, get the tweet in, man. Let's find out.
This
whether
jam
Jess
is
right.
news. This is some great
Feeling this
music.
one.
All right, we'll have a quick dance party with our cameraman Rick over there. He's already busting a move. But when we come back, is Westbrook a superstar or just super stats? We'll weigh in on Mark Cuban's latest comments about Mr. Triple Double. Back with the starters, right into the up-down report, where we figure out where the 4 of us stand on some hot-button NBA topics. We ask you to do the same on Twitter, #the starters. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Guys, first one. Remember when Mark Cuban said that Russell Westbrook wasn't a superstar during last year's playoffs? Yeah, he's still not convinced. He's putting up superstar numbers, Cuban told ESPN on Friday night. I'm not taking anything away from what he's been able to accomplish, but I'm not going to change my definition. Guys, are you up or down on Cuban doubling down and saying Westbrook is still not a superstar? Yeah.
He's a
Bunch of thumbs
superstar.
down.
I mean, he was a superstar last year in the playoffs. He's still a superstar. He's maybe the MVP of the league right now. The wins are there as well. So
They're on pace to win 50.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I like that he has a specific set of circumstances where you can actually be called the superstar, so we can't actually know the answer to this until the end of the season.
Right.
But like you guys are saying, Westbrook's one of the most superstar players in the game, not just on the court. He's got a Jordan deal. People want to see what he's wearing when he shows up to games. It's a highlight every single night. Sounds like a superstar.
Yeah, I kind of like this because Cuban's sort of keeping up the WWE sort of scenario here, the storyline. I'm the bad
Yeah,
guy. You know, he's keeping it up, and Cuban is very good at that. That being said, we're a quarter way through the season, so we can establish some trends here, and they've established that they're winning. So if that's your definition, they're winning. I mean, they're on pace for 52 wins. That's a superstar. He is leading every single night out there. Besides the triple-double, he's leading. He's taking the team on his back. So that's a superstar to me.
Yeah, I agree. All right, moving on here. This weekend, Elite Custom Tattoos, a tattoo parlor in Arizona. They shared an image of retired Spurs legend Tim Duncan receiving an elaborate machine-themed ink there on his back. Quite the shot, quite the ink. Guys, are you up or down on Tim Duncan's new back tattoo?
That's a
Sure.
Yeah,
why not?
All in
I have a
agreement.
feeling he did
I
this.
thought you hated tattoos.
Yeah, I do. Well, no, I hate neck tattoos and face tattoos, but
Okay.
I have a feeling he did this just to troll everyone, to say, yeah, I am a robot. Look, here's my
I'm a
huge-
machine. Yeah.
Here
Here's
you
my
go.
gears.
I mean, like, what? It's
Like, I-
crazy.
I like the giant yin yang. You don't see a lot
Yeah.
of yin yang tattoos in 2016.
He's a 7-footer,
him
so
back.
that's a lot of back right there.
A lot of ink.
I want to know if he pays the same as a guy who's 5'5" and walks in and gets a back
Yeah.
tattoo.
Well,
Really?
it's usually by the hour, right? So
Yeah.
you would think that's a lot of hours for a long back like that.
You
Really
say
good,
he
good
may
point.
have.
Or is it like per square inch? Or?
It's possible. You say it's to sort of almost to get back to the fans that said he was a machine or
Yeah.
robot. But a lot of it there, as you see, he's a huge car fan. So it's gears and pistons. He's like super into cars. So, I mean,
He's just
he's
got too
passionate
much
about it.
time on his hands now, too much money.
Yeah, maybe he's going to end up completely covered in
Yeah.
tattoos now that he's retired. We're like, what's Tim Duncan going to do once he finishes playing basketball? Get tattoos.
if he gets a free bird tattoo on his neck, though, like
Just waiting.
Birdman's over. All right, moving on here. On Sunday, the New York Times, they published a story about how both NBA reporters and, surprise, surprise here, head coaches don't like in-game interviews. Clippers coach Doc Rivers called them abnormal, while former Kings head coach George Karl said he wasn't a big fan. Guys, what about you? Are you up or down on the in-game coach interviews?
Yeah, I'm okay with
Wow.
it. I know it's a nuisance for the coaches,
Yeah.
and it should be because it's while they're working, and it's sort of a tightrope act for the reporters, just having to deal with it.
So quick, yeah.
But for the fans at home, and that's what it's all about, it's quite enjoyable.
What's enjoyable about it? It's
come on, we
boring
talk about it.
99%
That's
of the
the
time.
thing. 99% of the time, it's super boring. But that 1% of the time, it can honestly be magic. There's some great Greg Popovich moments when he was speaking with Craig Sager Jr. when Craig Sager was missing his
Okay,
name.
fair.
It's worth it for those moments. And the other 99% of the time, just take your time, lay down on the couch, let it wash over you, and then pep up once the game starts back up.
99% is incorrect. It's
That's
not
right.
that
Come on.
bad.
Hey,
No
this is
way.
what we do.
99 out of 100.
We
no
got to
way.
cut down on turnovers, got to take care of the ball, got to play defense a little better. It's like John Cliche, man. It's
But
great.
that's what I like about it, and that's why the NBA is so cool, is because you are getting that in-game experience. The coaches clearly hate
Yeah,
it,
that's yeah.
and the reporters dread it, but it makes it fun. I think it's great. And
It's
like
good
you're saying,
TV.
you're going to get a couple of those Popovich quotes or stares or grunts or groans throughout the
Even
season.
that,
It's
honestly,
worth it.
even the Popovich bit is not even funny anymore.
It is.
We've
You
done
love
it.
it.
No,
On
it's
that
not funny. I'm over it. I'm sorry. I'm a curmudgeon, I guess, with this. All right, finally here.
You sound like Popovich.
Sunday night, I guess so. Sunday night in Phoenix, Pelicans forward Terrence Jones. He threw an alley-oop off the glass to Anthony Davis, who slammed it home for the and one. At least we think it may have been a pass. Some say it was a horrible shot. So I want to know what you guys think. Thumbs up if that was an assist from Jones. Thumbs down if that was just a horrible, horrible shot.
I think it was an
Whoa!
assist.
I think so. That was an assist.
The guy's a lefty, and he shot it right-handed with that poor of touch. I think this was a rush shot,
Really?
just trying to get it up, and it ended up working out perfectly. I thought the same thing with Draymond Green throwing an oop to Bogut last year. Sometimes it looks great, and you can play it cool, and as long as you play it cool, it's going to count as an assist, but I just think he was trying to get the ball up to the rim.
That is a horrible shot if
Yeah.
he really did.
I think it was a pass. He just didn't mean to get it off the backboard.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
So, he's got the
Secret
sort of
option, bad pass.
Yeah, exactly. He threw it up there like, hit the board. Davis is there. It's like, yeah, nice. You read my mind,
It's smart.
AD.
It's a smart play. Hito Turkoglu used to do that all the time with Dwight Howard. He would go in for a layup, but sort of purposely just throw it
Yeah.
way high off the glass because he knew Dwight was on the other side. And he was going to slam it home.
Even though it's his right hand, which is a great point, he's got his head up the entire time. He's within 6 feet of the bucket or whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's an NBA player. He can't miss by that much.
Yeah, we see these kind of off the backboard alley oops all the time. NBA players just do it when they're close to the hoop.
All right,
Come
we're gonna
on.
take a quick break. Maybe the Jones pass is in weekend whoopsies. We'll find out when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Great batch with some classic weekend whoopsies.
Is there a doinker in here?
I hope so. I hope so.
Back with the starters, we asked you earlier in the show, what do you think other NBA players' first words were? You hit us up on Twitter, hashtag the starters. Trey, you got a few of the best answers.
Yeah, Giorgio says Carlos Boozer's first word, and one! There were a lot of Boozer answers. Ed says KG's first word was beep. Fair. Guillermo says Dikembe Mutombo's no. Very well could have been. Tap Out says Kawhi Leonard's first word was hello, but it came when he was 10 years old.
It's quiet.
And I like this from Bryce. Not sure about first words, but Draymond Green was definitely kicking inside the womb. Natural movements, of course.
Ah, nice.
Good
He's
stuff.
nice.
Good stuff. All right, it's Monday. It's a staple here on the starters. It's time for a new batch of the weekend whoopsies.
Joakim Noah is shooting 31% from the free throw line, but made a couple key ones late in the fourth. He's shooting so bad he's got his teammates willing in every one of his free throws, and his opponent's asking, how does that work? How do you shoot that thing?
Release the
Yeah,
doves.
exactly.
Oh, man. End of Rockets Thunder. Patrick Beverly was pumped up. He played some great D late. So pumped up, in fact, that he's going to bowl over his head coach, Mike D'Antoni. Yeah. But watch how cool D'Antoni plays it. Yeah, right into the handshake. Good
Real
game.
nice.
Good
Real
game.
nice.
Here's the bump again. Oh, man. Wow.
He didn't flop. He did not flop,
No,
D'Antoni.
he didn't.
We had some great post-game interviews this weekend. Got a classic Bays gaze from Kent Bazemore, then a couple interview drop-ins that were sublime.
DeMar, biggest comeback of the season so far for you guys. What was the message at halftime?
Just give him the ball.
Oh, that's a good message right there. That boy had 20 assists.
I know, did you hear that?
Assists. A
And
couple of
20
them
points.
must have been. Hey, he's welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
And thank you for that, DeAndre.
Great stuff. You don't see this often. Timofey Mozgov is going to get Mozgoved by his own teammate. That's Julius Randle putting Mozgov on a poster. He plays on the same team.
It's been a while.
Legendary halftime act, Red Panda.
no.
All right, she doesn't catch them. That's not her thing. She kicks them, right?
Yeah,
so she'll be all right.
Okay, we got it.
Two balls down, two balls?
Look at her
Three.
reaction.
That's 3 this season.
I don't like this. This is bad.
Oh.
This is also bad. Justin Anderson with the Mavs. He's just going to clunk that one. I mean, they're getting killed in this game. Come on. Just lay it in. Just get those points.
Tyler Johnson Saturday was even worse. Starts at the offensive end.
Okay.
Can't drop it in. He just tries to gently dab it in there. It doesn't work out for him.
Okay.
The defensive end is even worse. Dwayne Wade gives it to him right in the kisser. Oh, yeah.
Face! Nice.
That's an old man move.
Looks like it hurt.
That's for touching me in practice, bud.
CP3 is going to get the 7'2" Pelicans big man Alexi Ajinça backpedaling, and then
Timber!
up, down he goes. I mean, look, that's not fair. He's trying to get low. He's trying to get deep.
A monstrous man.
Yeah.
The 76ers got a lucky bounce here.
Ooh.
Dario Saric just tosses it in.
Whose basket?
That's actually the way they do that in Croatia. It happens in Croatia.
Tip shot.
Is that Dario's or Thompson's?
It goes to Hollis Thompson,
Oh.
but Stanley Johnson obviously put it in.
It's a good whoopsie. All right, one more break. When we come back, Lili's very solid play of the night. Don't go anywhere. We're just about done here, but don't go changing that channel immediately following the starters. It's Jared Greenberg and 10 before tip. He's pumped. Can't stop saying hi.
Jared Greenberg.
How long is he gonna go for?
He's gonna throw his shoulder out. Okay.
Oh, now the head.
Tonight's pick and play. It's the Hornets Pacers game on League Pass. Lee and I, we're going Pacers, going with the home team. Trey and Tess, going with the Hornets.
Buzz.
Good luck to everyone. Lily, VSP, baby.
We're going to Detroit. TJ McConnell of the Sixers fell one assist shy of a triple-double last night, but it wasn't because of a pass like this. Look at that for a beauty down to Ersan, who finishes with a beautiful layup. Look at that. Ersan sets the pick, then he goes around the world. TJ finds him. That's beautiful. That's what I call a very solid play.
Excellent stuff. Tonight on NBA TV, after, of course, 10 before tip, we got the Wizards and the Heat, followed by the Blazers and the Clippers. Coverage after 10 before tip. That starts at 7 with the Auto Trader pregame. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, you gotta join us for the Starters Twitter show. It's on Twitter. Just makes sense. We'll tweet it out. Keep an eye for that. Join us live. Get your questions in live. A lot of fun. Live polls and the such. Fan signs, Lee.
Yeah, first one comes in from Logan and his partner at the Grindhouse on Saturday night. A very solid Christmas gift. Can't think of a better present myself this time of year. Of course, they hammered the Warriors.
Yeah.
This one last night, the Lakers and the Knicks at Staples Center was smuggled in. Apparently, you're not allowed to take fan signs in. Dominic and his friends. Contraband got it
Nice.
inside
That's
there.
nice.
And longtime Starters fan Ben, also at Staples last night, snuck in this one. So apparently, you can do it.
Yeah, this
Be a little discreet.
it just can't be that big. All right, that's it for us.
Thanks for joining us, folks. And remember, knowing what we're putting in our bodies is important, but people continuously preaching about it can get awfully annoying.
Brace the night, people.